Welcome back to another Ravi Zacharias Tuesday. We're getting down to the end of these apologetic videos that are supposed to answer the question, does God exist, but never even make a vague attempt to do so. This time out, our crew of intrepid apologists talk about religion being an emotional crutch, which is certainly a demonstrable problem for religion, but they can't bring themselves to admit that they themselves suffer from it, as they all clearly do. So let's get started with a video that has nothing at all to do with proving God's existence, but does tap dance around being an emotional crutch.
Some people's faith may be an emotional crutch. But I find that I'm glad to have my wife around. But she's more than the fact that, sometimes she comforts me emotionally. There are many times when I don't need emotional comfort, but I just enjoy a conversation with her. I enjoy her presence. I enjoy her cooking. I enjoy playing a game with her. I enjoy watching a movie with her, in which there's no exchange other than the fact that she's there and I'm just enjoying her presence. It may be a partial reason why some people believe in God, but it's not a sufficient reason. Emotion may contribute to the question, but if that was the only basis on which I would be believing, then there would be nothing there. My emotions are involved, but so is my reason, so is evidence, so is argument, so are many other things. And so emotion contributes, but it neither denies nor is it the sum total of the argument.
But at least your wife is real. At least I hope so. You can prove that she actually exists. That's not something you can do with God. For a lot of people, certainly not everyone, but a large percentage of religious adherents, their religion is an emotional crutch. They want to feel like someone is watching over them and taking care of them. They want to believe that people who get away with things that they don't like will eventually get their comeuppance. They want to feel like they have a close personal relationship with an incredibly powerful entity that can punish the transgressors and tip the scales in their favor. This is nothing unusual, nor even up for debate. Now, I can't tell what's really going on in this guy's head, but there are a lot of people who claim that they also apply reason and evidence to their beliefs. But I think that after all of these videos, we can see that's really not true. They've convinced themselves that they have these things, but they cannot demonstrate that they actually do. And let's face it, your wife is objectively real. You can prove with empirical evidence that she exists. What theists do with their gods is like the guy who says he has a super hot girlfriend in Canada that he can never show you any pictures of and never lets anyone talk to. And even if he's deluded into thinking that she really exists, that's not reality. That's just fantasy. Just like God.
To seek out God for emotional comfort is not an argument against God's existence. There's nothing wrong with that. And I would also say Christianity does not inure people from the hardships of life. I don't know any Christian who hasn't suffered something in some way in this life. So just because we believe in God doesn't mean we're protected or that we live, walking down the primrose path. It's not like that at all. So in that sense, it doesn't inure us like a narcotic would. It actually helps us to face reality, I believe, more boldly.
Not even remotely close. Yes, you called it. Religion is like a narcotic. It's a drug to keep you from facing reality head on. If you actually cared about reality, you wouldn't need the God belief to keep you feeling good about yourself. You could just do it all on your own. It's not emotional strength that makes you believe. It's emotional weakness. It's an inability to stand up on your own 2 feet and accept the real world as it actually is, not as you desperately wish it was. Don't fool yourself because you're not fooling anyone else.
The idea that theists believe in God as simply a crutch is potentially true for many theists, but that doesn't mean that it's true for all theists. And I would venture to say the converse is true as well. I know many atheists personally, and I've seen atheist scholars publish the fact that the reason they don't want God to exist is because that would mean they have moral accountability. That would mean they have to live their life a certain way. And so their atheism is a crutch. So people use things as crutches all the time. Let's put that aside and see where the evidence points. And in the case of God's existence, the arguments for God are very, very strong, crutch aside.
But it doesn't have to be true for all theists. In fact, there probably isn't anything that is true of all theists. So why bring it up? After all, if you've forgotten, this video series is supposed to be answering the question, does God exist? So far, nobody has even attempted to answer that question. In fact, every single video has attempted to dance around the supposed reasons, just like this one does. Instead of addressing the actual issue that there are a lot of Christians who believe in God not for rational reasons but for entirely emotional ones, all anyone has tried to do so far is say, some people need it, but not me. I don't buy that for a second. In fact, I see nothing but emotional coddling coming from any of our video apologists. Oh yeah, I'd like to see some direct quotations from atheists who have said that, because I have yet to see anyone make that statement. The arguments for God are ridiculously weak and in most cases entirely non-existent. It all comes down to logical fallacies and wishful thinking without a shred of objectively defensible evidence presented whatsoever. Now, this was another really short video on their part, but I think it's important to bring it up. The question is this emotional crutch that we all know exists actually a good thing? Is it healthy? Is it rationally defensible? And I don't think for a second that it is. Reality is what reality is, and a very basic and important part of the maturation process is coming to grips with what reality is on reality's terms without your own wishful thinking coming into play. The world is not necessarily a nice place. That doesn't mean that we have to invent demons and devils and evil spirits because you're not comfortable thinking that people can be absolutely inhuman to their fellow man. It doesn't mean that it's okay to make up gods and divine beings to come up with rules to live your life by because it's easier than actually having to defend your own views rationally to others. In fact, that's exactly how these things work in most religions. A believer desperately wants things to work a certain way, so they invent an imaginary big brother in the sky who passes along made-up wisdom in a book of mythology that conveniently agrees with the believer. It's really just a threat to those around you to behave themselves exactly the way you want them to, without having to back any of it up in any consistent and intellectual manner. And what's worse, most of these people don't even know that's what they're doing. They've bought into the delusion hook, line, and sinker and aren't even aware that they're being intellectually dishonest in their beliefs. It's one thing to be lying to people for whatever reason, even if you think you're doing the right thing. It's entirely another to not even be aware that you're lying because you can't bring yourself to think about it in the first place. Yet that's exactly what the majority of religious people are doing. And that's really, really sad. As I keep saying, and I'm sorry if this gets old, but I really don't get what these people are attempting to do in these videos. The things that come out of their mouths really don't make any sense. They're meaningless, mindless platitudes that don't answer the questions at hand and don't even discuss the subject matter in any worthwhile way. I could see if they were going to use this as an instructional video to tell those Christians who are using their religion as an emotional crutch to get off their butts and study the religion in detail, but they really don't want anyone to do that. They don't want anyone to realize that Christianity is a load of crap, unsupported by any objective evidence, defended only by the empty claims and ridiculous premises by people who are hiding from reality because it scares them. And they won't admit it, because they are emotionally invested in hiding behind their ridiculous religious books. But the rest of us can see it clearly. We know why they believe, and we know that they are terrified to be honest, either with themselves or with others. It's beyond pathetic, but it seems to be something that they're proud of. But anyhow, thanks for spending a couple minutes with me. That's 4 more videos to go after this from the good folks at Ravi Zacharias Ministries. Please let me know what you thought, and if you're a theist who thinks you believe for entirely non-emotional reasons, let me know in the comments. I bet you're wrong. By all means, do all the stuff I keep asking you to do, you know the drill by now, and come on back in another couple of days for another video about the craziness of religion, politics, and the irrational world around us. Until then, please take care of yourselves.